see if I can help, since I is the host. Inside your ship, not good.
Nope. See down the holes? See it wiggling?
I see nothing wiggling.
So did I actually delete it? Will it let me place something here? No, it's still trying to say, yep, sorry, you can't place there. There's something in the way.
Alright, let me spectator down here. Alright, there's that. So this long tube. Yeah. There we go. Oh,
See,
there it goes.
If it's connected, I can delete it. If it's been disconnected, and like a large piece, and it stalls and say new grid and all that good stuff, it won't let me do anything with it.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Yep.
Parts are flying apart. Why'd you do that?
I gotta do what?
Looks like another one's been placed in here randomly. And it started clanging around.
I cleaned it up. It's gone.
Not for me.
What?
I can still physically attach things to it if I wanted to.
That long schnoz of
Yep.
loose piping
Yep.
is gone on mine.
Space engineers, why do you do this? Why is it necessary to be completely stupid like this?
Fly around your ship and just drop squares everywhere. I think we're actually getting to the point where our ships are too big for space engineers. Like the engine itself.
Right. Mine alone, like both of them in the world, definitely. When I was working on mine, I was still running pretty smooth by itself.
Yeah.
So this may have to start wandering into separate videos.
Yep. Which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
I mean, our final... when we finish, we'll need to test them. And we can test them. With each other present in the world, so...
Man, I gotta change all my settings again, hang on. So, now that we're back in, we were talking about other things for the ship. Number of guns.
Yes,
we were going to limit them.
Armament. And I'm kind of just taking rough guesses on numbers right now, and we can kind of balance them out as we talk, so we can determine it. Primary weapons on it. Obviously, to me, that seems like it would be the triple barrel turrets, the big, heavy triple barrel turrets.
Mm-hmm.
I personally like the battleship cannon that are the more animated one of the two options. The turrets are bigger. They look more impressive. They look, in my opinion, better quality. And I was thinking, number-wise, no less than 3. No more than 8. And I can give you my reasons for those numbers, if you'd like.
Go ahead.
Okay. And why I said no less than 3 is the Dunwich It has 4, but 3 of them are in the forward arc, and it looks almost too busy on it, in my opinion. Also, most of since those are 3-barreled turrets, they inspire vision of battleships. Most late generation battleships, the super battleships, only had 3 turrets on them. 2 in the front, 1 in the back. So that's where I was getting the number 3 was.
Okay.
Now, where I was saying no more than 8 is, while yes, some of the earlier battleships had 4 turrets. If you were going to, say, base your design off of a existing World War II battleship, a 4-turret or 3-turret makes sense. Now, in space, you don't have to worry about things being underwater, so in theory you could take basically the gun deck of a battleship and the gun deck of a battleship and glue them on one upside down. And that would give you 8 turrets if you're going with the 4-turret battleship. And that's kind of where I got the idea for a lot of these numbers.
Okay.
Was
one thing I would suggest, and this just comes from the fact that we are going to be out hunting. To me, the automated turrets feel more defensive than offensive in the way Space Engineers works as a game.
yes.
Definitely want a line gun, and it needs to be roughly centered to ship so it can be aimed proper. Aiming with cameras aren't fun.
Now, what I was thinking instead of those is the battleship coil cannons. Those things have an insane range, and they're on a turret, so you've got almost vertical and then 360 degree rotational base. So you've got almost a full hemisphere of control on it. If we were out hunting and had 2 of those, one where you could control and one I could control, or set them up so that the 2 of them together have almost a 360 degree coverage. And those things, like I said, have a huge range on them. Because they go... you can use them to bombard from orbit on planets. So
it's kind of mean.
And they don't do much more to balance out that. They don't do a huge amount of impact damage, but they have kind of a warhead-like explosion.
Okay.
They're not super powerful, but they are costly to make the ammunition for. So I was going to suggest at least 2 of those turrets.
I'd be okay with that.
And then you've got the triple barrels, which would be the heavy... When you're going with the defensive armaments, would be kind of the heavy defensive guns. The ones when the Cerberus destroyer is approaching and we say, no, go away, we don't want you over here.
Right.
So, from that, you have kind of the secondary armaments, which I was thinking the twin-barreled battleship cannon turrets. They use a different... If you were using the the triple barrel that I'm not fond of out of the pack. It's the same size gun as the triple barrel that I dislike, because it's one of the reasons I dislike it is the stats for that gun fit much more for secondary. They're not as accurate, they don't have as much range, and they don't do as much damage.
Okay.
So they're much better for close-in weaponry. And that's kind of how I saw them. So, thinking... see, I mean, most battleships had 5 to 7 secondary turrets on each side, so we probably don't want that much for the secondary guns.
Mm-hmm.
Because using the same math that I had before, that would end up with, like, let's see, $20 to $30 secondary guns. That's a little much.
A touch.
So, I'm thinking max it out at 14. And this is the high end. But we would like some, so ship overall 6 to 14 secondary guns. 6 at the low end, 14 at the high end. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me. Let's see. Do like that.
Okay.
No, not like that.
And then you have the defensive, what is generally considered the defensive armaments. Which in that mod pack you have the heavy defense turret, which is a fairly heavy single barrel turret. Those were the ones that I showed you and suggested on that modded ship that you not modded, but the one you showed me that you were doing the road to better building with.
Mm-hmm. The ones that weren't working? Or the second ones that were?
The second ones that were.
Actually, that was only a set. The in the very first episode, I used the ones that we were using in the last Survival Before Boom.
Okay.
And the second one, I recreated the ship, but using what I had planned on, and I used the one that came with David and Bertha.
Ah.
And those apparently are not working right now, so
I don't have the. Because, well, we were looking at the. Were you using the Avalon turrets?
On the first one, in episode 0, because we had planned on putting that in world to start with, yes.
Okay, and those were the ones that weren't working. Okay.
Right. No, those were working. The ones that came with David and Bertha were not working.
Okay. Those were...
Specifically, David and Bertha were not working.
Ah.
That's my piss poor attempt at an arcade. I'm going to leave that alone and walk away right now.
Right. 'Cause, 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 they're called in the MechSpecs mod pack. The guns I'm trying to describe are the Teleon heavy defense turret. They have a 3x3 base, and they have a single gun sticking out of them. And they're mean.
Okay. I think I know which ones you're talking about.
Well, those would probably function as the kind of the heavier of the defense guns on the ship. And then you'd have your flak and your anti-missile and your what would the flak, anti-missile, and anti-fighter stuff. And that altogether, it's kind of hard to say this is how many of each we want, because that you kind of want a good coverage. And so I'm thinking no more than 10 of each. That's 40 possible turrets just from that one statement, and that seems a little much to me. But those are short distance turrets, and we want some of all of them, but we don't want an insane amount of any one particular. So that one's a harder one to quantify. So let's see. So we've discussed about armament. We've talked about shields. How much shielding do you think these things should have?
Considering at least one of the exploration mods that we're going into, heavily shielded. We might need it.
Okay. So how many shield generators? Minimum 2?
I was figuring minimum 4.
Minimum 4?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Maximum?
Maximum 8.
Okay. And you can set up the... I figure we'll let them set up the capacitor slash capacity variants themselves.
Yeah.
Let's see. Now something...
Did you turn on oxygen before you loaded up this time?
No. Of course not. Why would you ask a silly question like that?
Honestly, the more I'm thinking about it, it might not be a good thing considering how airtightness can kind of screw with things a bit.
Yeah.
Alright, these are bedrooms.
But, how tall is this? Okay, those are 3. Okay, so we've talked about shield generators. How many nanites?
Considering how big the ship is, and if we're going to use the nanite with the projector system to keep it repaired, I would say at least 3.
3?
Yeah. If you feel like that number is excessive, 2 might be okay.
Okay. Minimum 2, maximum of 3. I am placing engines, and it is causing huge amounts of lag on my end.
I was wondering what that was. I'm actually cleaning up my interior a little bit. Filling in some of the gaps left behind with the building I was doing the other day. And I'm debating going ahead and putting a door right here. I don't know. This will all keep air because of the number of vents down here. There's quite a few of them. That'll fill up out here. Yeah, I'm putting a door in.
Okay.
And I just got jerked through the floor.
Your ship said no.
I got my control panels upside down again. And pulled through the floor. Why?
I guess we need to talk about how fast we want it to accelerate.
I don't feel like it needs to be. And I think about what we're adding in as we go along. Decently quick. Relatively quick. Make me wish I did not hit the accelerator. Let's see here. I would say that full speed at least 4 seconds shouldn't be that hard to do. What do you think?
That might be a little tough, but because I don't think the Dunwich could do that. I mean, it's quick, but I don't think it could do that in 4 seconds.
Ooh, excuse me. Well, I'll tell you what. Shoot 4 to 4 seconds. If you don't get there, that's okay.
Yeah, well, but it needs to be fairly quick.
Yeah, because we may have to run.
Run away.
We likely will have to run.
I
Oh,
think
we kidding? We're gonna have to run.